Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. We're so glad that you're here. We're so glad that you're out there. We're so glad, however you're getting here, you're in the right place. We're grateful to have you here celebrating Shabbat with us, and also celebrating our friend Mina becoming b'mitzvah, becoming to the age of mitzvah, and we are so grateful to the family for sharing that simcha with us as well. And so what this means is that Mina is going to be helping us lead some prayers tonight as well, in addition to doing some chanting and some teaching tomorrow. And so basically, as soon as they're eligible to do Jewish grown-up stuff, we ask them to help us do Jewish grown-up stuff. So we're so grateful that Mina's doing that. So in just a minute, we're going to get started. Just a couple of quick announcements. This is a safe community, and this is a musical community. So when I say safe community, I mean that everybody who's present in the service, if you could please keep your masks over your mouth and nose for the duration of the time that you're in here. If you need a mask break, if you need to take a breather, you want to go outside at any point in the service at all, you will not offend us one bit. So do what you need to do. If you go outside, I always say hi to the peacocks for me, but I haven't seen them around for a while. They might be hibernating or hiding before Thanksgiving. I don't know. But so thank you for doing that, and observing all the posted placards and abiding by what our security people are helping us with. That's great. It's also a musical community, so we're going to be singing. Not instead of you. We really hope that when we sing, it inspires you to sing along with us or to try to sing along with us if you know the words or kind of know the words. We've got Matt here helping us, keeping us all mostly in tune. And if you're at home and you're on mute and you're like, why am I singing? I do my best singing when I think I'm on mute. So please let it out, and even if we can't hear you, we can feel your presence. So also one last thing. Because we're live streaming this and because of the way the internet works, this whole service is being captured. And what that means is that if you've got a phone or a photographic device of some sort, you can put it away because everything is taken care of. You don't have to grab those special moments that take you out of being present for the service at all, so we're taking care of that for you. So if everybody could please, if you have some sort of device that makes sound, except for you, Matt, if you have some sort of device that makes sound, if you can make sure it doesn't make any more sound, then just tuck it away and be present as we celebrate Shabbat together. Speaking of which, we're going to begin with a song that we start with every week. It's called Shalom Alechem. It's on a page. I believe that page is 13 in your blue prayer book. And we sing about these Malachei Hasharet, these emissaries of heaven, these angels, some people might say, who come to us on Shabbat, who remain with us in peace, who bless us, and then go out at the end of Shabbat, and we sing with them the whole time. So we're going to start that. Shalom Alechem. Let's sing together on page 13. Page 13.
Shalom Alechem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzetzchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everybody. Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon.
welcoming in Shabbat isn't just increasing the sound in our spaces, it's also increasing the light in our homes and in our hearts, and we do that with the Shabbat Candles. And so I'm going to invite up the family who's going to light the candles with Mina. The candles are already lit, but they haven't been blessed yet. So we're going to go ahead and say the blessing for the candle lighting, and I'll invite up Rachel and Cecil to join Mina for that. I've been told what the blessing sounds nicest the closer you are to the microphone.
It's stuck on my... I totally forgot.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlikeh shel Shabbat.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
This is an important night. I get nervous. It's okay. So we're going to continue climbing this ladder from the mundaneness of the work week into Shabbat. This ladder that we use has rungs, and these rungs are songs and psalms like Lechuna Ranana. That's on page 15. Page 15.
Lechune ranina, lechune ranina, lechune ranina, l'Adonai. Lechune ranina, lechune ranina, lechune ranina, l'Adonai. Naria, naria, l'tzur yishenu, nekan ma'afana v'todah. Naria, naria, l'tzor yishenu, b'zmirat naria lo. Lechune ranina, lechune ranina, lechune ranina, l'Adonai. Lechune ranina, lechune ranina, lechune ranina, l'Adonai. Arbaim shana akut bedor va'omar am to'ei levavhem vehem lo yadu derachai asher nishbatim ve'api im yevaun el menuchati.
Page 16. Page 16.
Yai la la la, yai la la la, la 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 la, la 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 la, yai la la la, la 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 la, yai la la la, la 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 la, yai la la la, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, la 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 la, la la la. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom, Yeshuato, sapru v'goyim kevodo, bechol ha'amim niflotav, ki gadol Adonai.
next rung on our ladder is Lecha Dodi on page 21, We've gone from the Psalms of David into medieval Sfat, and our sages there put together this poem for us, reminding us that welcoming Shabbat should be like when you stand up to watch somebody coming down the aisle during a wedding, or when you welcome a dignitary, a king or a queen into your presence. And even with this kind of distance and kavod, you can still say, "Come, my beloved." And that's what the Lecha Dodi means. So we're going to sing the first two verses together, and then the last two verses together. Starting on page 21.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala Adonai, 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 Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Adonai, 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 Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ולתהילה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Adonai, 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 Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Adonai, 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 Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'lecha, ki מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Adonai, 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 Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Adonai, 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 Bnei Shabbat nekabela.
We're on page 22.
Yamin ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי. על יד איש בין פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Bnei Shabbat, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצוהלה. טוב אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Bnei Shabbat, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, ולקראת דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated. I'd now like to call up Virgie Duncan, Mina's grandmother, who's going to lead us in a psalm for Shabbat on page 23. Page 23.
It is good to acclaim Adonai, to sing your praise, exalted God.
To affirm your love
Of each morning and your faithfulness each night, to the music of the lute and the melody of the harp.
Your works, Adonai, make me glad. I sing with joy of your creation.
How vast your works, Adonai! Your designs are beyond our grasp.
The thoughtless cannot comprehend. The foolish cannot fathom this.
The wicked
May flourish, springing up like grass, but their doom is sealed, for you are supreme forever.
Your enemies, Adonai, your enemies shall perish. All the wicked shall crumble.
But me you have greatly exalted. I am anointed with fragrant oil. I have seen the downfall of my foes. I have heard the despair of my attackers.
The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow tall like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they will thrive in the courts of our God.
They
shall bear fruit even in old age. They shall be ever fresh and fragrant, to proclaim, Adonai is just, my rock, in whom there is no flaw. Well done. We're going to share a song based on this psalm as well. It's on the facing page 23.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. יא לי לי לי, יא לי יא לי, יא לי לי לי, יא לי, יא לי לי, יא לי, יא לי, יא לי לי. מזמור שיר ליום Shabbat Tov Leodot Ladonai Ulizamer Lishimcha Elyon Ulizamer Lishimcha Elyon Ulizamer Lishimcha Elyon.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center, PJTC for short. If you're just joining us, this is Shabbat, and we are celebrating that, and we're also celebrating our good friend Mina, who is helping us lead services this evening. Mina and I made a deal earlier that they would give the sermon tomorrow if I was willing to give the sermon tonight. So fair is fair. Before I get started, I want to tell a story that many of you probably heard. All my students have heard this story. Many congregants have. When they ask me about how my parents feel about what I do, they must be so proud. And I thought, well, yeah, but I'm just as surprised as you are. And here's why. Many, many years ago, I was having a discussion with my parents. The kind of discussions that all families have, but some people call them fights. And this particular discussion was, well, it degenerated into what I'll call one of those kitchen sink arguments, meaning everything was fair game. Anything that anyone had ever done that had upset the other was on the table. And about 20 minutes in, my parents, this has a happy ending. My parents let me tell this story all the time. About 20 minutes in, they say, by the way, we weren't crazy about it when you became Jewish. And I forgot to mention, my parents are not Jewish. And they said, by the way, we weren't crazy about it. Now, I'd been Jewish for several years at this point, and this was the first I'd heard of it. And I realized, just in the heat of this moment, and they respected my decision. They had cherished my family, my Jewish family, and this had never come up. And only in that moment, when feelings were all on the surface and reflections were going back a long way, did I realize how painful that must have been for my parents, in ways that they never let on. And I realized the loss that they must have felt when something that was very important to them, and I was, raised in a religious family, something that was very important to them, that they had tried to pass on to me, didn't stick. And I'd chosen another path. And how that must have felt in the moment like a personal rejection, not just of their ideals, but of them, in ways that I never intended, but it all kind of clicked into place, right? And I had kids of my own by this point and was starting to feel some of that pain myself. But it took me forever to really empathize with my parents. And a few years later, when I decided to become a rabbi, I thought, well, they're going to love this. But I could not tell them because I lived in Minneapolis, and the only two schools I was looking at were in New York or Los Angeles, and they're going to wonder, why are you, changing your zip code and either selling your car or selling your coat, depending on where you go. And so I had to tell them. So I call up my folks, legit thinking that this may be the last conversation I ever have with them. And so I picked up the phone and I dialed my parents' number. This is back when we dialed. I told my dad I want to be a rabbi. And I was like 32 2 at the time. Like this is a big change. And he said, "That's great. Wait till I tell your mother." Like the exact opposite of what I thought was going to happen. I think my mom was running an errand, and so I went off to do something, and later on I get a voicemail from my mom. And my mom has this wonderful East Texas accent. If you ever want to hear it, like listen to Shirley MacLaine in the movie Bernie. Well, bless your heart. I think that my dad told me what's happening. I just think that's wonderful. And it was the last thing that I expected. And that's when I had another realization that would bear fruit in my own parenting. And that is that, yes, parents can love something. They can love their history. They can love their traditions. They can love their values. They can love their sense of identity and want to share what they love with you and want you to love it too. And when you don't, it is so painful. But you know what they love more than all that stuff? Is you. And if that relationship becomes at risk, then most parents choose wisely. Most parents love their child more than they love what they're trying to pass on to their child. The inheritor more than the inheritance. Most parents have values that they want to take pains to give to their child, hard-won lessons they've learned that they want to save their child some trouble. But some values are so strong that they're not just willing to take pains, but they're willing to hold on to them and press them even when the situation is painful. But I think there's almost no one, very few, who would sacrifice their child for an ideology. But just in case, we have this great story this week. Well, great story, asterisk. It's actually a terrible story, known as the Akedat Yitzhak, the binding of Isaac, where the last of many tests that God gives Avram Avinu, our ancestor Abraham, and says, okay, I've got one more thing I need you to do for me. I need you to take your beloved son, Yedidcha, Isaac, and I need you to make a burnt offering out of him. And Abraham agrees to do this. And just to not keep you in suspense, it ends well. It ends well for Isaac. At the very last minute, Abraham lifts the knife to take his life before burning him on an altar, and God stays Abraham's hand. Now, there's a wonderful essay by a guy named Eric Auerbach called Odysseus' Scar, and it compares ancient Greek literature, namely Homer, with ancient Hebrew literature that's somewhat contemporary, almost contemporary in where the oral traditions come from. And they said, whereas with Greek literature like Homer, there's such rich detail, and some people tend, then value Homer more than they value, say, the Tanakh, because there's just such a level of detail that nothing is left to the imagination. Everybody's motives are explained. Everybody's inner dialogue is out. It's like the first Dune movie compared to the second Dune movie. No spoilers. But what happens in the Akedah is that this sweeping narrative that is at the core of so much of our culture is like maybe several sentences. It's so concise. It is so terse. It says, God to Abraham, take your son. Abraham, okay. They travel. 3 days later, they get where they're going. And what Auerbach says is that whereas with Greek literature, they're trying to create a world for you, with Hebrew literature, it invites you to step in and understand and create the world. The lacunae leave room for you to fill in the blanks. Now, some people have filled in these blanks by making Abraham the hero of this story. That in this final of the 10 tests that God gives Abraham, Abraham lifts the knife and in that moment passes the test. He is a knight of faith, some people call him. And then there's a kind of a deus ex machina, I shouldn't say it that way, at the end that makes everything okay, that makes this story acceptable. Some people say in earlier versions of the text that it didn't end that way. But for some people, they fill in those blanks with Abraham and the tremendous faith that he had, that he was willing to sacrifice his son. But maybe, is it possible that this final test with Abraham, it wasn't Abraham who passed, but God? Because God could have let him lower the knife. God could have let him make that choice, however that choice came out, but God said, no. I now know what he's capable of. Let me show everybody what I'm capable of. Is it possible that this lesson wasn't for Abraham, but it was for Isaac, who Rashi tells us was 37 when this happened? We think it's a powerless little kid being taken, led up the path, and somehow that makes it more tragic, but he's 37, which I think makes it more tragic. And the lesson is when Isaac sees the knife raised and Isaac sees the knife lowered. He's the next leader. He's the one who needs to know what God wants of God's people. And where others in their time and place were willing to put everything in front for the sake of God, even God says, I need them to know that's not what I want. We mark an important moment tonight, passing on our Jewish tradition, passing on our stories, passing on values that people have died for. But we also pass the lesson that we don't kill for them. We don't put the inheritance in front of the inheritor. And that is why we have endured. That is why we are alive. And that is why we are light unto the nations. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for joining us here at PJTC. We're going to continue with our Mari prayers, starting with our call to blessing, which is the Baruch Hu, and that's on page 28. It's our custom to rise and face the ark. On page 28.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai.
Ma'avir yom u'mevi laila, mabdil ben yom u'velayla, Adonai teva'o shemo, ve'vekayom, tamid vilim aleinu, le'olam va'ed. Ata Adonai,
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo.
ha'ma'arim ha'ravim.
Amen. Yeshkoach. You may be seated, and we turn to page 29. We bless God for the constancy of God's love. Ahavat Olam, page 29.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachvenu, u'kumenu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem negeh yomam v'layla, negeh yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim, baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael.
Amen. Mina's going to lead us in the Shema on page 30.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et
Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha, v'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol
Techa ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi netzavecha hayom alevavecha ve'shinata levanecha ve'dibarta bam ve'shivtecha beitecha u'vlechtecha b'derech u'shachbecha u'vkumecha u'kshartam le'o al yadecha ve'hayu letotavot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha.
Continue at your own pace with the passage in the bottom of page 30, and we'll get back together in just a moment. Let's join together at the top of page 31. Page 31. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael ve'amarta lehem vasu lehem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem nedorotam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf betil techelet v'haya lachem letzitzit uritem oto uzkartem et kol mitzvot Adonai vasitem otam Velo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei nehem asher atem zonim achareihem leman tiskadu vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim lelochechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher chotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lechem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem emet. On page 32, page 32. We bless God for the light God brings to our lives and for the constancy of God's love. We now bless God for God's nature as a redeemer, hearing us and answering us when we call.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora, nora, nora tehilot, osef elev. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora, nora, nora tehilot, osef elev. Malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe. Zeili, zeili, hanu ve'ameru. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora, nora, nora tehilot, osef elev. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora, nora, nora tehilot, osef elev, osef elev, osef elev.
Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. We now turn to page 33. Page 33, this final blessing after the Shema. We bless God for helping us to lie down in peace and awakening us again to life. Hashkivenu, page 33.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hanitenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hanitenu malkeinu lechaim. Ushmor tzveiteinu uvoleinu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Shalom, 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 shalom. Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
haborei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen. Continue on page 34. Page 34 at the top.
Ve'shamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat Shabbos, et haShabbat לדור תמרית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת,
Shabbos.
לעשות את השבת לדור תמרית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, שבס, את השבת לדור תמרית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדור תמרית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, שבס, את השבת לדור תמרית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדור תמרית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, שבס, לעשות את השבת לדור תמרית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדור תמרית עולם.
And Mina will lead us in the Hatzi Kaddish on page 34 in the middle, page 34. Whenever you're ready.
Amen.
Echon uvyom echon uchaye dechol Beit Yisrael Magala Magala Uvizman Kariv. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Leolam Olam Me'amaya Yitbarach.
Vit Romam Vit Naseh,
Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalo, Shmei Kudesha,
Berichu,
Elam Yilko Bechata, Veshina Rata,
Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran Be'alma.
Veimeru,
Amen. We rise for the Amidah for Shabbat evening. This is a silent or private Amidah, so take your own time to pray the prayer that's on the page or in your heart, and we'll take a few moments for personal prayer. When you're finished with your own prayers, you may be seated. We'll get back together in a couple of moments.
Say shalom bimromav, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Say shalom bimromav, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
We conclude the Amidah with Kaddish Shalom on page 48. Page 48.
Yikra v'yikra shemei Rabba, bel madivra kirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayedechu be'Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kari v'imeru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach, le'olam lo me'omaya.
Yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalav shemei dekudesha.
Brihu.
Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tishbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'yimeru.
Amen.
Kitkabalt slotchon u'va'otchon decho Yisrael kodama v'hondi v'shmaya v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimeru.
Amen. At this time, I'll ask you to rise, and we turn to page 51. We also have Edward Black. The family has designated with the honor of opening the Ark for the Aleinu. So, Edward, come on up. The rest of us, we turn to page 51 and face the Ark as the Ark is being opened.
Aleinu lishabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נטע שמיים וארץ. כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
Please remain standing while the ark is closed. The ark is closed. You may be seated. At this time in our service, we always pause to remember with honor those who are no longer with us. This week at PJTC, we are marking the Yahrzeit, and that is the anniversary of the passing of Abraham Epstein, Alexander Moyer, Anna Mauf, Avramel Eberstein, Carl Breitman, Chaim Weinstein, Chaya Vygotsky, the Chaya Vygotsky family, Cherna Vygotsky, Cynthia Pollock, Ella Hochstein, Eric Rambach, Francis Label, Frank Grossman, Frederick Donner, Gary David, Gary Richard Priester, Gertrude Height, Henny Aberstein, Heyman Braveman, Hinda Muriel Solomon, Yitzhak Aberstein, Jacob Newman, Jean Pauline, Janine Blanche Mazel, Joseph Selden Kahn, Justine Goldschmidt, Leah Weinstein, Linda Dunn, Michal Aberstein, Minnie Solomon Aberstein, Moshe Weinstein, Nathan Miller, Reuben Hassman, Ruth Rosenberg, Sadie Abend, Sylvia Blitz, Theodore Dreyer, William Mallet, and Yershel Weinstein. If you have another name that you'd like to lift up in honor at this time, please say that name out loud wherever you are, or hold that name in your heart. And if you're in mourning for anyone or observing a yard site, please rise for the Mourner's Kaddish. We are on page 52. Page 52. Let's pray together. Yit Gedal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ba'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'gala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach leolam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei dekudsha brihu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. If you're standing, you may be seated. We now have several presentations for Mina. And starting with me, is that right? That's right, it's me. I'm so excited. I don't get to do this that often. But the men's club designee Sean Surface asked if I could be the designated Yad presenter this evening. So I don't have the whole speech that I'm sure he prepared thoroughly. But I will say that on behalf of our men's club, you have some gear up there. The small but long box. Here, show that to everybody. Let's go to the other screen so everybody can see what that is. So that is a yad, which is Hebrew for hand, because it's got a little hand on the end of it. And it's not for scratching your back or pointing at things, except for pointing to the Torah scroll. So tomorrow, when you read Torah, you're going to have your very own yad to do it with. And there are practical reasons for this. The reason we developed this custom of reading with a yad is that it aids in the longevity of the Torah scroll, right? In the sense that if you touch, the words are small. There's not only no vowels but no punctuation. So all the more of an achievement that we're going to see tomorrow. But so you need to follow along somehow, but if you touch it with your finger, the oils from your finger rubs the letter off. And if we lose a single letter in the Torah scroll, we have to set it aside until it can be repaired. So many years ago, we came up with this custom of using a yad. That's the practical reason. What I love about how, when our men's club shares this, they always say, but there's something on a deeper level of having this object of your very own that connects you to the Torah scroll as you're reading, this kind of mediating feature. And as I said, practically it helps preserve the life of the Torah by saving the letters. But on a higher level, I think it preserves our tradition by bringing you into reading it. So that's why the Men's Club bestows upon you in this yad and all their fine work with our youth in this community and youth around the Pasadena community. And this is all the men's gift to you, and use it in good health. I highly recommend you leave it here so that you don't accidentally forget it tomorrow. So leave it up there, but that's for you on behalf of the Men's Club. And so the next presentation, we have Maya Rosenbaum via Zoom, who is going to make a presentation on behalf of our United Synagogue youth. And go. All right. Unmute.
Hi, I'm Maya, and I'm speaking on behalf of USY today. Mazel tov, and you did amazing today. You're completely prepared and you sounded great. And I know that tomorrow's going to go just as well. Today, I'm presenting you with a Bechol Echad, which is a book full of songs that's commonly used in regional USY events. This will definitely be useful at any of the events that you hopefully choose to attend. And I hope that you can get a lot of use out of it. Hopefully we'll see you at these events in the future. And congrats again on tonight. Good luck tomorrow.
Now for our final presentation of the evening, I'd like to call up Judy Callahan, who's going to say a few words on behalf of our sisterhood.
I once sat next to someone at a bar mitzvah who was not Jewish, who turned to me and said, "Do you understand how incredible this rite of passage is at this time?" I hate to break this to you, but very few people look back on their early teen years as the best time of their life. It's a really, in many ways, crummy, confusing, difficult time. You are becoming your own person. You are redefining your relationships in your family as you gain independence. You are trying to figure out social life in the joys of middle school. And lots is happening to you, and there's just a lot to contend with. But Mina, it's exactly at this point that we're saying to you how much you mean to our community. We value you enough that we're going to allow you to lead us in prayer. We have enough confidence in you to say that you're going to read from an ancient text tomorrow in the original language, which did not have vowels. And we respect you enough to know that you're going to teach us. And not only are you going to teach us, but you're probably going to give us a new perspective on that Torah portion that we haven't thought of before. As I give you this Kiddush cup from Sisterhood, I want you to look at it every time you make Kiddush, and whatever is going on in your life, know how honored we are to have you as part of our community, how much we value you, how much we love you, and how we cannot wait to see you blossom. Anyway, Mazal Tov, you are doing a wonderful job. I don't know if I'm allowed to hug you or not, or fist bump, or anyway, Mazal Tov, you're doing great.
Mazel Tov, Yesher Koach, and Amen on everything that Judy shared with us. And now we are going to end this service as we began it, and that is in joyful song. Did I forget anything? I think we got it. Okay, we're going to end the service as we began in joyful song, and the song, and you sing better, and it sounds better, and it feels better if you're standing up. So let's please rise, and we'll go out on Shalom Alechem, and then stick around for Kiddush, would you?
Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol HaOlam. Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, Shalom. Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Odevo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Odevo Shalom Aleinu, Odevo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos, everybody. So I'll ask that Mina's family could come up here and join Mina for Kiddush. And you all out there, you can join us for Kiddush too. So for everybody who's in the room, the family and us are gonna make Kiddush on your behalf, and then we have some bread and some juice outside. And then if you're at home and you want to make Kiddush with us, go grab a cup of whatever it is you celebrate with and join us right back here. Let's maybe roll the announcements for a minute while we get the cups passed out. Make sure Mina gets the big cup.
Guess I gotta unwrap mine too.
Safety first.
Got your Kiddush cup? All right. Vayerev vayivoker yom hashishi, vayichulu hashamayim v'haaretz, v'chol sevam, vayichal Elohim bayom hashvi, melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi, mikol melachto asher asa, vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi, vayikadesh oto, Kivo Shabbat mikol melachto, asher bara Elohim lasot. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yavav v'ratzon hinhilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta v'irtanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uv'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabat l'chaim.
All right, those at home who wish to wash as you wish. For everybody here, I'll do a Netilat Yadayim up here on your behalf. I got my washing cup. It's a custom if you wear wedding rings or something like that to take your rings off so that when you're washing, it has full contact. That's why I do that.
I didn't know that.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Amen. And we'll turn over to Mina and family for Hamotzi. They've got their homemade challah. Why don't you lift that up and show us? Beautiful. And whenever you're ready, would you like to lead us in Hamotzi? Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tzei avon. Eat up.
Yeah, Shikoach, Mazel Tov, and good Shabbos, everybody. Thank you for joining us at PJTC. We're so glad you were here. We're so glad you were here. We're so glad you were here. I see Rhonda out there and Maya and all sorts of great people. So you'll see some announcements of some great stuff that's going on in our community. And everybody else will meet you outside where we got lots of Kiddush and treats and stuff for you. Everybody out there in Zoom land, good Shabbos. God willing, we'll see you tomorrow at 9:30.